Good afternoon, dear speakers, Lubna and Keith. Good afternoon, dear viewers. It's such a pleasure to see you here today. Hi, Gary. We're here to talk today about impact investment, and it is one of our favorite subjects. And what's interesting is that when we speak about other industries, we always discuss impact. And so I believe that this is one of the anchor discussions that we have here, and then we forward it into our different discussions. Without further ado, we only have 45 minutes today. Let's go ahead and dive into introductions. And today we're here, family. We have experienced VCTV speakers, and I know viewers, you already know a lot of them, but for those of you who are new, please meet Keith.
Great, thanks very much, Irina. Good to be back here. I'm a regular, so a lot of people hear my background, but briefly, I've been in impact and clean tech investing for 20 years. Before that, as an entrepreneur, I started on the corporate side with Mitsubishi Corporation and then BASF, and then the last 10 years doing straight VC. I am also the chairman of the Foresight Clean Tech Accelerator Center, the largest clean tech focused accelerator in Canada. And I've started a new private equity venture capital hybrid called Upper Stage Ventures. Also today on the impact subject, I'm going to be speaking about a company that I sit on the board of directors of called Kela, which is exclusively a CRM to help impact companies.
That sounds interesting, and I love that you're going to be discussing one of your portfolio companies. That's always very exciting. I really appreciate it. And what about you, Gary? Could you give a brief introduction? Everybody already knows you, but there might be somebody who doesn't.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Irina. My name is Gary Fowler, serial entrepreneur. I'm particularly interested in artificial intelligence and quantum computing. I've done 16 companies, 2 unicorns. And in terms of the impact side, I mean, I'm actually focused in several different directions. I'm with the Black community. We're raising a $100 million fund in Atlanta, Georgia. At the same time, one of my passions is helping to find missing and exploited children. I'm working with the district attorney in New York, the CEO of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Kids, and Homeland Security, and diplomat, four-term White House National Security Council member. And so I'm actually using my artificial intelligence to be able to help find kids using facial recognition. So it's about 460,000 kids per year in the United States alone are missing and are exploited. 45 were recently found in Ohio, another 25 in the Carolinas. Next week, actually, I'm on that panel, sponsored by Intel, by the way. So I'm chairing the panel to be able to make a little dent in the universe to help find those kids.
That's amazing. I mean, it's so great. And I love that technology allows us to do that, to facilitate that. We really can make our world a better place through technology. Thank you so much for that. Lubna, sure. Could you introduce yourself?
Hi, it's good to see everyone. I'm Lubna Bajani, and I am founder of The Alternate and soon-to-be host of Intention 21 Festival, where it's setting an intention of well-being for 2021. Our interest has always been at Alternate in regeneration and applying technology and science to the betterment of the human experience and at a planetary level. So we look at, in terms of investments, we're looking at regenerative projects that have an impact on the individual, the community, and as therefore society at large. So it's grassroots regeneration projects. From housing to utilities, infrastructure, education, and for total enablement. Good to be here.
Yes, and it's such a pleasure to see you guys here. we're getting so close to the end of the year, and I know many people are excited to put this year behind themselves. But I really think that we have a great opportunity to finish this year in a big way and really push forward and prepare ourselves for even greater things to come in 2021. With that being said, I would like to see if you guys would have an advice for those for the companies that are raising funding in impact right now. What kind of steps they can do in the short time that this year is here, or should they just kind of bottle up, go enjoy the Christmas holidays, and move on with their fundraising and the work in beginning January. So if there is time left, what steps can they take to make those steps very productive? Gary, would you answer that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the situation is, quite frankly, the way this year's been, I'm thinking not a bad idea to enjoy the holidays a little bit. So, but the thing that I found that works, let me give a real example. So we have a facial recognition security company out of Minsk. And of course, with all the challenges today, people talking about the issues with race and bias and those kind of things, we had to find a way to be able to do things differently and how we could truly make an impact. So we look for places where people need help, right? And get their support. And it's really difficult for companies. It's really hard when you take facial recognition, for instance, into a company today. But if you come in with the idea of doing something right, because that's your passion, it changes everything. People open up their arms for you. So find out where there's an opportunity and there's not the resistance, and use that to be able to drive it forward and get the support. So I suggest that. I mean, the other thing is, if you can show that as a startup that you're able, that the investors are still going to be able to put money in their pocket, right? Albeit you're doing something the right way, but it's the same thing. It's a successful business model. That's really interesting, right? Because you're making your dent in the universe, and at the same time, it's a win-win. So I really like those kind of combinations. And so, if I look at where we want to make an impact today with artificial intelligence, it's, how can we make the world a better place? And you and I have been on a lot of panels talking about, clean tech and all the challenges we have, and global warming, and space is a final frontier, and it's all coming together as one. I mean, this is one. It's a problem that technology can help us solve, and we need to do it now. We can't wait any longer. There is no more time to wait. These challenges are upon us. We have technology that can help assist us in a very intelligent way, and we need to use it. So startups that are out there, I mean, and I've already been in Nigeria this morning speaking, Russia speaking, Europe speaking, Slovakia, all over. So get out there and get shit done. Go do it. Don't talk about it. Go do it.
Yeah, do it. Show your heart and business model, and do it, and take the steps. That's such a great advice. And I do echo what he's saying, that in some way it would be nice to take time off. But look at us, guys. We're not taking winter holidays.
It's good. It's like family time for the holidays. I love it. I don't get to see, it's great to see you every day. I love seeing it. And Keith, Lubna, yeah. Maria. The only thing we're missing is Kyle.
I know. And he asked me to step in for him. And it's, I always say, yes, of course, it's always my honor. So Keith, I would love to ask you about your CRM system. You said that, can you explain more what does it have to do with impact?
Sure, absolutely. So Kela, that's Keela, is a company based here in Vancouver. But what they're doing that is unique from other CRMs is that they're specifically focused on charities and nonprofits in the SME sort of range, which is the vast majority of those groups that are not served by any of the existing software solutions on the market. Salesforce, et cetera, are just inappropriate for groups that are focused on charity or not-profit if they have tax regulation or advantages that they can take advantage take advantage of. CRMs, existing CRM systems, are not serving them, and yet the only ones that were geared towards that market were geared at the huge, enormous charities like the Heart and Stroke Foundation and things like that. Really inappropriate for the 90% of charities and not-for-profits that are out there. I mean, these groups are doing great work, and they're struggling largely with using Excel and things like that to keep track of things. Kela, the founder, Najid Qassam, he did some work with the Obama administration in the charity and not-for-profit space, and he saw these pains that were existing there, and he got the idea. He's like, why isn't there a CRM that solves the needs for these customers? There's an awful lot of them. I'm hearing the same complaints over and over and over again. And so he put together a company using a programming team in Nepal, of all places, just some genius programmers there to put together the version 1 of Kela, which did really well. And now we're into version 2.0 with many iterations in between, and we're growing rapidly. And in this COVID year, we've seen really good adoption, very, very low churn. People really need a solution like this. And what I'm really interested to see, and what I've been pushing for, is there a way that we can see the impact that is generated by all of these charities that our software is supporting? Because I would love to see that, to know that we're just a little piece of this huge, huge impact that is enabled by the tools we're producing.
Absolutely. And what's interesting about it is that when you said CRM, I was so confused. But as you explained it, it's definitely clear impact. And the point that I'm trying to make here is that there is impact hidden in things that are just in plain sight, where we wouldn't think that there is an impact to be made. And that measurement of what technology allows us to advance the impact in nonprofits and charities, it's very interesting. I would love for you to know more about cause-specific offering. It's basically a way to use smart contracts to further the benefits of those that are driven by cause, which is charities and nonprofits. But I'll follow up of that later. Lubna, regenerative. I mean, you are the first person that basically used this term outside of farming during many discussions, and regenerative systems is something that very dear to my heart. I'm still trying to wrap my head around how do we design regenerative systems, especially when we build technology and we build systems. I'm a big systems nerd. But would you expand a little bit more into that? And how do you measure that regeneration when you're making an investment in a non-regenerative farming, in other systems or designs?
Thank you, and thanks for the credit. But I'm not sure about if I am the first, but I think when I'm quite involved in a lot of the sustainability work, and design-centric development and approaches. But when I think about the current state of affairs in society today, I'm not sure the sustainability is the word I would use, because there's not a whole lot that I really think we want to sustain. I think before we reach a sustainable, a state where we want to sustain, we need to regenerate, and we need to regenerate on many levels. Surely we all know that the state of the planet is such that we have wreaked havoc so there are many ways to regenerate the planet, and these are all the things that we talk about in sustainability conversations, all the things that B Corp is looking at, and there's so many other groups that are now talking about, and especially as we see in supply chain, and with COVID and the major disruptions to supply chains, it gives us an opportunity to reconsider how important it is to address our having the knowledge of the effect of our supply chain and where the supply chain is coming, and not just, it took economic impact for us to realize that we really need to be more focused on this social well-being, and not just economic wealth, but social wealth. And in doing that, I think we'll see with COVID, what it did accelerate is that you could have profitability, success, and sustainable viability by adopting regenerative practices, and by looking at the ways to reverse the problems we've caused. And a lot of that needs to be addressed by looking at hyper-local impact, because the planet has varied environments, weather, circumstance, history, indigenous wisdom, indigenous roots. And what I believe we need to do is regenerate. Not every place has been exploited or damaged or is affected or impacted in the same way. And regeneration needs to happen everywhere. It may be more interesting for us to look at some of the emerging markets and developing world, less because of anything else other than we better save them before they become a bit more driven by the same principles that maybe that have brought us to where we are today. So when I think about regeneration, and when we're thinking about it, we're talking about almost like regeneration in a pot. We're going to this metaphor with and we're establishing a string of investments that represent an ecosystem of the things that you would, some of the samples, and the intent is to create sample villages and implementations that would take the exact environment into account. So if it's in Lagos, and there's plenty to do around the water, there are homes that are floating in basically that are sitting in water. So things would be around housing, and how do you not only have clean energy, but regenerate, and in terms of cleaning the water, turning a swamp into usable land, and then creating in the process a engagement of the community, because this is the technologies and the investments that we would be bringing in would be very specific to what that community needs, not what we think it needs. Things around local currencies and rather community currencies, where the exchange of value is happening within the community, within where they are not as distressed as a community, because the larger economy is distressed. So you can still maintain, we can still exchange, and because at the end of the day, what real scarcity is our own life, and the life of this planet itself, and everything on it has the same sort of limitation. So, and what we need to move is, I'm not saying we need to extend the life of this planet forever, because we know it's finite, but what we need to do is optimize what we have with it. And then, and the same thing with our lives. So we're all issued 24 chips a day, 24 hours, if you will. That's what we've agreed to. How we're measuring, and how do we distribute ourselves? So where we're electing to put ourselves is what matters. So we're looking at models that are shifting the focus a bit. And I think we all at this point need to start thinking about what we individually care for, and where do we want to see ourselves, and what future do we want to set for ourselves, with the premise that we all know that the decisions we take today frame the choices we have tomorrow. And we are taking a bold step ourselves anyway, and even creating this investment pool. And it's quite interesting to see, because the intent of it is first well-being and regeneration, and the returns are, we believe, will surpass expectations as we modify the way we measure things.
Absolutely. And the way we
I've
measure.
not heard of a lady called Rian Eisler and partnerism as a model rather than capitalism or this domination-based models. And we're really taking that to implementation in our investments and the projects that we're backing to demonstrate the value of the investments.
Yes. And we are having tools and more tools that are built. We've just had a discussion on blockchain and financial technology integration, and Matthew mentioned his project that's called Universal Carbon, and it basically allows you to, as a consumer, buy some carbon and offset the print that you are making personally. And these are huge and wonderful tools that we have, and more people are driven by that. So I do believe that there is going to be a great benefit, financial reward for those investing in regenerative systems, because again, by nature, regeneration allows us to let go that does not serve and build something that is working, right? And so that's kind of how the regeneration systems work. And I really appreciate that you saying it's not the sustainability, it's regeneration. We already live in the sustainable world, and we're dealing with problems that we designed to be sustainable 70 years ago, and they are not working for us. So we need to constantly adapt, and we constantly need to regenerate things that are working. Thank you so much for that. Gary, I want to talk to you a little bit more about AI and quantum. And I mean, obviously, it is a very deep tech, right? And now AI is closer to reality than in many people's mind. Quantum, I believe we have 4 quantum computers right now in America, and more are being built. But what do you think impact makes in AI and quantum?
Well, I mean, you can solve a whole lot of problems very quickly, right? Remember, I'm a country boy from Pennsylvania. And so if you've got the capability that it could do in a matter of 100 seconds what could take 10,000 years to do on a conventional computer, we've got the ability to be able to do modeling. I just did a presentation for the top pharmaceutical companies in Europe. There are 8 of us. And we're talking about AI and then quantum computing. And I mean, this is a whole new world. I mean, all the challenges we have with travel to space, right? But instantly to be able to figure it out. Imagine how much our world's going to change. It's like having Nikola Tesla's brain on steroids. And so what I look at is just all the assumptions that we have today, literally across the board, are going to be thrown out the window, right? There's, Moore's law is going out, everything's going out the window. Blockchain, from my standpoint, cybersecurity, because how are you going to, if you got quantum computers and they want to get into your system, I don't care what you have, right? They're going to figure it out very, very quickly. So, but at the same time, if we're going to, look at it, the population of the planet has quadrupled in the last 100 years. We talked about this a few times. Concerning, right? By 2100, it'll be about 13 billion. We're running out of land. We're running out of resources. We have to look to the stars. We can't survive here in the present form. I mean, look at some of the movies that have been out. Was it Blade Runner? I forget. There was a couple of movies that talked about what it's going to look like, and it's happening. So here we have global climate change. The oceans are rising. Food production's going down in terms of because the Gulf of Mexico is slowing down. So the fish and the whole supply chain, the cycle for food supply is going down. We've got challenges in front of us, but the good news about it is, we've now having the technology. I know when we did Yva and we talked about a smart assistant, these are way beyond that. These are like, we started to working on supervised AI. And the system started to teach itself languages. So it went through Chinese, it went through on its own, right? It started to learn. And now imagine having quantum computers on top of that. So in the good sense, I hope we build that emotion AI into the quantum because hopefully they're not going to think that we're just something disposable and not good. But this is a way we're going to be able to figure out how to travel through wormholes. Christopher Altman, the one NASA astronaut that was on one of our panels, I've been going back and forth with him. His particular research project is at MIT is the teleportation of quantum particles, right? These are the kind of things that are going to be interesting. So imagine from drug discovery. So every part of our life is going to change, and that's going to impact. It's going to impact and hold people accountable very, very quickly. And so instead of thinking about something being done, it's going to be done in an instant. And it'll be interesting to see how we respond politically to those kind of systems that are coming out. And now remember, we're connecting everything together, right? So I remember I've had dinner with the co-founder of the internet, and over in Russia, I had cocktails and I sat down with him and was talking about it. He literally co-founded DARPANET. He invented it, which is now the internet. In fact, surfing, his last name is Surf. That's how they're surfing the internet came out of his name. So we were talking about, I mean, this whole world's going to change. Everything's going to be connected together. And these super systems are going to be out there to be able to help us live longer, live better, and take care of us. It'll be interesting to see what happens. So in terms of impact, I mean, and this isn't going to happen for a few years. It started though, but the kind of things that we're doing is I'm building a $100 million fund that's for Black entrepreneurs in Atlanta, Georgia. You know what I'm doing with the missing and exploited children. It's like, let's take the technology. I remember I was a clinical psychologist, and I was a humanistic clinical psychologist looking at the good side, the positive stuff. Let's figure out how we can train the technology to do good things, to be able to make our lives better instead of, all this other BS that's out there. Let's figure out, let's take problems and make, one step, each one of us on this panel, each one of us, and I know Keith talks about it, Lubna talks about it, you talk about it, but take one thing and just make a little dent. I mean, it's like here we did it, missing and exploited kids. I mean, this doesn't take I'm a country boy. It's like, okay, there's kids that are missing. We have facial recognition. We're the best in the United States at it. Why don't we marry it together? What if we put it in a Walmart or a Target on their cameras inside and not looked about race, but figure out how we can find kids? Wouldn't that be interesting? This is like simple stuff. It's not like you make a couple of phone calls, call your friends, set it up. Of course, it's some work, but you can do it.
Absolutely. And what's amazing is that you guys are doing it, and I'm trying to do my best too. And I know that we have a whole team around the world of people, and I'm sure there's those that are doing it that we don't know them yet, right? And that's, I think it's so wonderful. When you said about positive psychology and training AI, it is so important that we learn to understand our emotional intelligence, right? We learn to understand what it is positive psychology is, because as we're training AI, we need to be able to evolve ourselves emotionally as well, because otherwise, as you said, judging people if we judge people, majority of people probably wouldn't pass the test of.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. And so you go down through, my partner, David Yang, has developed the most sophisticated AI I've ever seen. It's his house. It's the brain. His entire house is a artificial intelligence. It controls everything. And so Morpheus writes me. So Morpheus writes me notes about how you're doing, like deep notes too. What do you think about life? And his house is communicating with me. His house has a dog, a robotic dog, like $100,000 dog. His house has its own dog. So the dog can go outside and, go around and see what's happening on the outside of the house and report. And it comes through his house. So his house can see what the dog's looking at. It's incredible. But these kind of technologies, think about it, that's how our lives going to be. These things like Morpheus are going to be. Now match it up to quantum computing. How much different is it? The one thing, everybody's going to be held accountable, Irina, for everything, right? It's going to know exactly when you're onto not good sites on the internet, and it's going to report. You know what I mean? Instantly. It's not going to be, hey, listen, you might want to check this out. You know, I think you got to, what's going on today? Is there something we need to know about? You know?
Yeah,
So that,
absolutely. Yeah, and I think that also to the rescue technology for us as well, because the transformative technology makes a huge impact, and transformative technology allows us to connect ourselves to our emotional wealth and emotional fitness, and kind of make sure that we advance as the world advances around us. But I often think about the house that you're referring to and wonder, you know, what if my house decides that I'm not in a good mood and it's not going to let me in until I go and meditate?
His house looks at you coming in, and if it looks through its records or looks out on the internet and decides it doesn't like you, it does not let you in.
Right. So, you know, and that's very interesting. Thank you so much for sharing it.
Yeah, sure.
You are very active and you do so many things. And I know that for now you're concentrating in Canada. And so I would like to talk a little bit. I would love for you to share more about what's happening in Canada, because we are kind of a little bit cut off right now as far as traveling. And I do appreciate what Canada does in technology, and just lots of brilliant minds and brilliant people and businesses are there. So when it comes to impact, are there kind of a news that we're not getting, or what is happening in Canada specifically?
Well, Canada has always been a leader in the clean tech area. I mean, if any of your viewers have attended the Clean Tech Forum in San Francisco each year, which is the flagship event for the year, you know that a third to half of the people there are Canadian, and they always have been. I put it down to something I called the David Suzuki effect. David Suzuki is a scientist and a television personality. And when I was a kid, he made it cool to be a scientist, because he was, you know, this Japanese Canadian guy with a big afro and sunglasses, and he was just cool. And I mean, way cooler than Bill Nye or any of those other guys could ever be. And he was environmental, like very much about how we are a part of nature, and technology also is it's an emergent property of nature, and we need to respect that and don't have to have hard boundaries between them. We need to integrate that philosophy that he put forward into Canadian culture in the 1970s when I was a kid just emerged, and because of that, Canada's very oriented toward that. We have a lot that is going on here. You know, Canada, of course, as a geography, the geography of Canada is huge, but the market of Canada is not. You know, we are, a little bit more than 10% of the population of the US, for example. So technologies that are developed here in Canada really have to look internationally for their markets. One of the problems, though, that we have here is, while we have this great technical talent, scientists and engineers, absolutely fantastic. What I'm finding, and where I'm driving a lot of my business investment right now, is to find these companies that have this great technical achievement, these terrific products and services, IP surrounding them, everything, but perhaps they lack vision or the network or the ambition outright to go after the international markets. And that's where, with my international experience and my partners and my network, that I'm looking, I can take those things and I can leverage them worldwide. So Canada's a great technical leader, but where we really need help is on management talent and sales and marketing talent. Unfortunately, we have suffered from a brain drain, where a lot of those people do go to the US, where they can more quickly earn a lot of money, especially salespeople. You know what motivates them, and you know, they are very mobile, and true talent will always be paid for, and is mobile. So COVID has now given us an opportunity. A lot of those people have had to come back here. I would say that, combined with the protectionist Trump era, which is, with under Biden is probably going to change. But the protectionism of keeping out foreign people from jobs has pushed a lot of that talent back into Canada. So there's a very interesting time right now where there is talent here to marry up into those great technical companies, and then those talents coming back to Canada from, or maybe they're not even Canadian. There are people from India and from all over who were working in the US that are now coming to Canada because it has been difficult for them in the US over the last few years. And there's opportunities there. For the work that we're doing at Foresight, we originally were servicing early stage companies, but we're finding more and more now that we are helping these growth stage companies, companies with multiple millions in sales, tens of millions of sales. We're helping them to get to those international markets. Again, great technical talent. People do know the problems that they're solving, but they may lack the networks to get through to their best customers. And that's where we can really help.
That's amazing. Interesting that there's a big growth that's happening in Canada right now. It's very pleasant to know. I think that preparing for going global and traveling again, you guys are going to stand up and represent Canada pretty well. And so good job. And obviously you're doing an amazing work with your business and really speaking up entrepreneurship for Canada, or at least to me, you represent that. I'm really excited. I'm really excited when borders open to finally go and visit, and see and visit what you're doing and everything. We're coming up on the top of an hour, guys. So I would love for you to do the closing thoughts, and also if you could mention what brings you back to VCTV and what is the motivation for you, and of course, what's the best way to find you. Keith, since I already had you, would you launch up with that?
Sure, that's fantastic. Well, I keep coming back to VCTV because I love these dialogues, and the connections that I've made through here have been terrific. The best way to contact me is through LinkedIn. Just look up my name, or you can follow me on Twitter at Keith A. Gillard. My new firm is upperstage.ventures, but there's not much to see there. On the topics of impact, check out the company that I was talking about, Kela, K-E-E-L-A. Fantastic stuff. We are raising a round of capital right now. If this is something that interests you, would love to tell you the story on that. And also on the Foresight Clean Tech Accelerator Center, Foresight CAC is the website for that.
Thank you so much. Lubna?
Thank you so much. Well, what keeps me coming back? Between you and Kyle, how could I not? And it's always wonderful to hear what my fellow panelists have to say, and I do learn a lot. Keith, I definitely want to connect with you on Kela for sure. I mean, like ASAP. I'm working with a nonprofit that helps kids learn to read, and with volunteers all around the world, and I think they may be just the perfect candidate for using it, and I'd like to be interested in. And in any case, see, that's a living example of why I am here. Anybody who's interested in working with us in terms of they have an innovation that applies for a smart city or a regenerative, or I like to think of them less as smart and more as empathic and healing cities or villages or communities, and you have a technology or idea, please let us know. We're structuring some investments right now. And you can always find me at Lubna Dajani, almost anywhere, LinkedIn, Twitter, or here next time. And thank you.
Thank you. Gary, would you last but not least?
Yay, Sonia. Yeah, sure. You can get me on LinkedIn, Gary Fowler. You can get me on Twitter. I mean, you name it. I've got 3 shows. I'm out there. So I'd love to hear from you. And these are incredible times. The companies that take advantage of this digital transformation have a great chance to be able to make an impact. You know, the one thing I say is stay positive, stay focused, visualize where you want to do, what you want to do. I did a TED talk, a TEDx about that a few years ago, and it works. So, you know, paint those pictures, go for it, you know, stay positive. And at the same time, you know, make sure that you do your customer development with your company to make sure that what you're developing is something that the market really wants. Test it, because you don't want to over-engineer it and find out that you spent all your money on R&D and there's no money left to run the company. So great times, great to be here, and great to see all my friends here today, as always. I love VCTV, so you can look me up on VCTV also. Thanks, Irina.
Such a pleasure. Thank you, Gary. And as you guys said, we've all the connections. We met here, we met on VCTV, and it does feel like a family. I'm so excited to see you guys in person. We must, when everything goes back to normal, we all gather and we'll travel the world together, and it will be wonderful. Or at least that's the picture that I have in mind. Yes. And so, I mean, what we're doing here is so important. I know that to me, besides the business support, it's an emotional support, I think, that we're creating for each other, because knowing that each one of you working on these things and doing these amazing things is inspiring. It allows me personally to wake up and say, how much greater can I be today? Because I see you guys speaking and I see you sharing the things that you are doing, it's empowering me, because if you guys can do it, we can do it together. And so I then can do it too. It's not a pushing the boundaries of the reality forward single-handedly, but together it's much easier and more fun. And so with that, entrepreneurs, take steps forward, pitch. Make sure you go out there and reach out to investors. Go to LA Token, to the CTV, and you will see all the links to profiles. And I can guarantee to you that if you expose yourself as far as show your vulnerability and reach out to us and show us your deal, you know, show us your pitch, we'll follow up with you. That's what we're here for. And investors, be part of our network. Join us, because it's an amazing network and we're a family. Be part of our family. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Lubna. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, viewers. Thank you, Maria and Kyle. We miss you. You have such a few shoes to fit for me. So I'm blessed and honored to host once again. And please follow VCTV and contact us. Thank you so much for your time.